There it is. It's going somewhere. All right. Once again, my name is Joseph Stephen Scoden III. I happen to be the immediate past District 33 director, and what a ride! What a ride! Many of us are already in leadership, maybe just club president, but just any club officer role is a big deal, and some of us have been area and division directors and above and beyond that. And we know there's challenges, but we know there's great rewards. I think I've known Jackie 10 years, and every year she gets an award for something. I don't know. I don't even know what she does, but she's always getting an award because she's doing stuff, because she loves what she's doing for the district and how she's mentoring and changing lives. Well, this is part 3 in our series called Want More Out of Toastmasters. And today we're talking about Toastmasters helps with networking. Helps with networking. Personally, it's helped me with networking, helped me start a business, helped me make friends around the world, helped me meet a District 81 right here, Elka. It's helped me reach out and speak in different venues that I never could before. And Toastmasters did that, and Zoom did that. But as when you're talking leader to leader from other districts around the world, you kind of have an edge. If you have an issue or a problem up here, someone's there to help you. It's really exciting and enticing what we do in the leadership level. And I'm sure Clarice will tell you, it's fun when you're interviewing the income and potential regional advisors, the income and potential international directors and above. It's pretty exciting. And now that we're doing it in Zoom and not in person, literally it could be 3 in the morning for you or 3 in the morning from them in Iceland or somewhere else in the world. It's just fun to get that perspective. You really get to know them because they're at home too with their families and their dog running around and middle dinner and just like the rest of us. And you find out we're all the same, but the ones that step into leadership, just something a little special because they're taking on those challenges. Well, today, and not enough about talking about me, but we have a special guest today. I don't know if you can see him in there from District 50. He used to be part of District 33, then he moved. He moved from Las Vegas, and I'm sure he'll tell you about that a little bit. But let me introduce him because this is so important. We're trying to develop leaders one at a time. We want people to understand the importance of being a leader in Toastmasters and what you get out of it. Bottom line is what's in it for me, right? Let's be realistic. All right, so here we go. DaWane Wanek, a distinguished Toastmaster, of course, began his career on November 1st, 2016, while he lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, once again part of District 33 back then. Deciding that he couldn't mentor new members in Pathways if he didn't embrace it himself. So he decided to work both the Legacy program and Pathways in parallel. And that culminated in his achieving dual DTMs in July 2019. Do you know anyone else that achieved a Pathways and Legacy DTM the same month? That just doesn't happen. But since then, he has amassed a total of 6 DTMs. So DaWane was the second person in the United States and 4th in the world to have completed all 11 paths. As of March 2021, just a few months ago, he is now the first person globally to have completed all 11 paths twice. Now, DaWane has held every club officer role at least once, and while in Las Vegas, Nevada, he served as the District 33, Division L Director of District 33. And he held a pivotal role in the reformation when we split District 33 and District 115. Moving back to Texas, he moved to Texas in late 2018. He served in various other district level roles. DaWane was the 2020 District 50 Humorous Speech Champion. In his spare time, he serves as a District 50 District Director. So he's done a lot of things from club level, achieving the pass over and over again, jumping wherever he's needed. And that's why he's a leader. And DaWane's doing it, I think, because he kind of likes it. So please help me give a warm welcome to Mr. Distinguished Toastmaster ×6, DaWane Wanek.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, District 33. Wow, this is really cool. It's like coming home, but not because I'm still in Texas. So there's that. Show of hands. Let's make this interactive since we have a small, intimate group here. Who joined Toastmasters because they wanted to work on their public speaking skills? Okay, a couple of you. Who joined Toastmasters because you wanted to improve your leadership skills? Okay, a couple of you. Those are the two primary reasons people join Toastmasters. That is not why I joined Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters because of a girl. Yep, some of you have met her and you know her. But it was early in our dating history, and she called me and she said, "Hey, what are you doing on Saturday?" Now, pause for a second. Guys, that's a pivotal moment early in a relationship. It can either go well for you or off the rails at that point. So instinctively, I'd like to think, I responded, "I don't know. What are we doing on Saturday?" She offered up that she was competing in a District 33 humorous contest in Vegas and wanted to know if I wanted to go along. Pivotal moment number 2. There's only one right answer. And as much as I tried to stay out of her Toastmasters nonsense, I said, "Honey, that sounds like a great idea." So off I went with her on Saturday morning to see what this Toastmasters humorous contest experience was going to be about. Part of her selling point was, it's only $5 and there's a raffle and there'll be snacks. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, there's something in it for me. So game on. And I sat in this auditorium at the Las Vegas Municipal Police Department, which was just an odd place to be if you're going to be in Vegas. You don't really want to be in the police department. But I sat in their auditorium and I watched these really funny people come across the stage. And I sat back and my ego said, I could do that. And about the time I got that thought through my brain, a chill ran up my spine. I'm like, crap, I don't know if I could do that. That seems a little scary. That was the moment when I said, I guess I need to go with her to one of these Toastmasters meetings and see what it's all about. That was how I got into Toastmasters. I showed up to the first meeting and pretty much adored the process and the people and how it works. It was not what I thought it was going to be. I saw people teaching people, people learning from people, and I thought, you know what, going all in. So, yep, Joe, I did go out and buy all the manuals and map my path to my DTM, and I figured it'd take 3 or 4 years, but I'm ready to go. That's what brought me to Toastmasters, a very non-traditional method, if you will. What's kept me here and what surprised me about what excited me about being in Toastmasters had nothing to do with trying to get better at telling stories, trying to be less nervous, standing at a lectern, sharing whatever it is I'm supposed to share. And it was all about seeing the growth, not only in myself, but in others. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I can tell you that about the time I bought all those speech manuals and mapped out my path to my DTM, I also decided to adopt a strategy that had really 2 basic premises to it. The first one is just say yes to anything anyone asks you to do inside of Toastmasters. I made that mistake in prior marriages, and that's why I'm on wife number 4, but I digress. I'm going to say yes, because I felt like it was a safe place to make mistakes, a safe place to learn whatever it is you were meant to learn. And as scary as Joe may seem some days, most of you aren't scary at all. So I felt comfortable taking that strategy on. The second part of that strategy was don't speak for free. One of the things as I started doing both Pathways and the Legacy program in parallel is looking at all the other opportunities I have inside the club, outside the club, to get credit for a Pathways project, to give a speech that correlates with some project, loosely correlates with a project requirement, but just keep doing it again and again and again. And that first home club of mine, I give them tons of credit for being patient with me because I was the guy always raising his hand going, we need a speaker. Who wants to speak next week? Ooh, 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 me. And it was a pretty successful club. So I had a challenge getting on the agenda as often as I wanted to. So what did I do to solve that problem? I joined a second club that didn't have that problem. They always had speaking slots open. So what I was able to do is customize my experience very early on to what I wanted it to be. And you people embraced every aspect of that from the second I walked in the door the very first time until today. Now, what the heck does that have to do with leadership? I mean, I was in it for me. I wanted to win contests. I wanted a DTM. I sure as heck didn't set out to get 6 of them. That's a different topic for a different speech. But at some point, as I grew and I could see the growth in others, and at this point probably had served in at least 2 or 3 officer, club level officer roles, I realized that what was starting to do it for me was really seeing how this program can transform people's lives. I'll give you an example. My home club here in Tyler, Texas meets on Monday nights at 7 p.m. The only reason I know what happened to this particular member is he shared it with us in his first icebreaker. And the point of his icebreaker was, or at the beginning of the speech, he shared with us that he drove around the parking lot 4 Monday nights in a row before he decided to get out of his car and get up enough nerve to walk into that meeting the very first time. And I happened to be there the day that he walked in, and I remember him like it was yesterday. He wouldn't make eye contact. He would shake your hand, but he sat in the back row and didn't want anyone to engage him because he was that scared of what he was getting himself into. Over a few weeks, 3 or 4, he started to look up and make eye contact. And when they asked for volunteers for table topics, you saw his hand go up. So they immediately called on him. And I don't even remember if his response was 1 to 2 minutes. And I don't even remember if it was coherent or even complete sentences. But I remembered that was the moment that he broke out of that frozen zone and took action for the very first time. When he gave his second speech a few weeks later, he shared with us, even that early on in his Toastmasters career, how it had already changed his life. The confidence you could see when he walked in, he made eye contact, he spoke up. I forgot to share with you in his icebreaker at some point, he inadvertently said something funny and we laughed. And the look on his face was priceless. It was just like, oh my God, I'm funny. How'd that happen? And then he said something else that was funny and we laughed again. And you could see him sort of get really comfortable with, wow, maybe I'm a funny guy. Who knows? But you saw him build on those skills. Every set of dots that connected, you saw growth in this particular human being. And when he gave his second speech, he gave so much credit, maybe 60, 90 days into Toastmasters, for his professional career. He'd gotten up enough courage and enough confidence to walk into his boss and ask for a raise. And not only did he get a raise, but they promoted him. Now this is a kid that's been in Toastmasters 1.5 years. He competes at speech contests. He will go to other clubs and give speeches when asked to do so, and does it with grace and comfort. Will he ever win a speech contest trophy? Probably not. But he doesn't care. He's so comfortable in his own skin that it has literally changed who he is as a human being. It's those examples of what we see in the growth of others that motivated me to not only end up doing all of the club officer roles, but the first time I was asked to step into district leadership, I said yes. I don't know what a District 33 Division C assistant director does, but sure, I'll do it. Just walk me through what you need me to do. And by saying yes to that particular role, I really started to understand how it works at the district level. In fact, within a year, I allowed some of our fairly influential members of that side of then D33, and some of you know who I'm talking about, convinced me to take on not an area director role, which would be your normal traditional path to move into district leadership, but to go head to head with an established candidate from the floor for the division director job. Some of you were in that meeting when we had to vote. I wasn't sure why I was doing it other than I was asked to, and I had promised to say yes to anything I was asked to do. But when the vote came back and I had won by 3, a margin of 3 votes in a hotly contested race that they had to recount 2 or 3 times because apparently math skills are not a prerequisite to a vote counter in a business meeting, but I digress. I didn't take that moment for granted. I actually took it as a very humbling experience and gave it my all and went into the role with gusto and an open-mindedness that not everybody had an appetite for, because a lot of folks here like to stay within the swim lanes and not color outside the lines. I'm a change agent by DNA, by profession, and everything that I do in what I call my day job is usually to move the needle and progress in individuals, sometimes in organizations. Sometimes you do it with finesse and grace, and sometimes you do it with brute force, dragging them, kicking and screaming a little bit closer to what good looks like. But that year of service meant a lot to me because enough people plus 3, had faith that I wouldn't screw it up. And I kept being reminded by my mentor at the time, what we do here is not rocket science, but what it takes is a little bit of courage to step out of our comfort zone and be okay with that, because that's where we as individuals get to experience the growth. And that's exactly what that experience was for me. After the 1 October shootings in Vegas, that girl that got me into Toastmasters the very first time had become my wife, so sorry for bearing the lead. She came home from work and she goes, I'm done with Vegas, we're moving. I'm like, okay, honey, where are we going? She goes, I don't care, no offense. But she said, she's from LA. She goes, I'm not going back to California, but anywhere else. I go, okay, honey, I know that your nerves are kind of raw with the travesty that just happened to our community, but can you do me a favor and just wait a week? Can we have this conversation, press pause, and we'll pick it up in 7 days? And she goes, yeah, we can do that. So day 7, she comes home from work and I said, so how we doing? She goes, oh, we're still moving. I'm just not going to pack tonight, so we can actually put some thought and process behind it. Through a series of seemingly random events, we ended up back in Texas, where I grew up as a kid and where she had really never spent more than 1 or 2 nights in her adulthood. So she picked where we live. I'm going to say it's random, but it's not, because none of these things are. Before we left Vegas, and before we decided we were moving to Texas, she was just sitting on the couch and doing something on her iPad, and she just randomly blurted out, did you know that Tyler, Texas is the 7th safest city in the country? And like, no, honey, I did not know that. I let it pause a beat or 2, and I said, so you ever been to Tyler, Texas? Not Dallas, not Houston, but Tyler, Texas. Nope, I haven't. So we went on a long weekend just so she could see what it was all about. And to cut to the chase, she fell in love with the people. She thought something was wrong with them because they were just a little too nice and their manners were a little too deep. And she wondered why they always said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and held the door open for them. But once she let go of the death grip of her purse and realized, okay, maybe he's telling the truth, she let down her wall and she let people into her lives. And now she even said last weekend that I'll have to pry the house keys out of her cold dead hand before we move anywhere else ever again. So we'll see how she feels in 5 or 6 years, but so far the honeymoon's worked out and she has fallen in love with the people. What's been interesting about being in district service is you do get to meet a lot of people and you get to build relationships, real relationships with people. You work your way through the natural ones where you automatically connect with that human being the first time you meet them, and you build something fantastic. You also work your way through those challenging egos and personalities that exist everywhere, the naysayers that tell you it can't be done, or we don't do it that way here. That's my favorite. Well, that's not how it's done here. And that's one thing I did have to battle moving into District 50, which was this, we've done it this way for 100 years, don't go rocking the boat mentality that awful lot of people had. That also brings stagnation to an organization if you don't shake it up a little bit. So last year, what did I do? I wore three hats. I was the district alignment chair. I was the pathways chair, because, you know, you might as well tap the guy that's done them all a couple times, because he probably knows how to use the software, if nothing else. And then at the last minute, our Eastern Division director called and said, "You've been to Texarkana, right?" I go, "Yeah, nice people up there. Any chance you'd want to be my Area 11 director? Because I need one." Like, sure, just say yes, and we'll figure it out. So my path at this point is totally non-traditional. I didn't walk up the ladder like most people do, and that wasn't by design. Yes, I like to color outside the lines and I like to push the boundaries of what's acceptable, but that's how you get people to accept change, is to lean a little outside their comfort zone, show them the reasons why this change could be good. And doing those three roles, I got to work closely with our then program quality director, and smart guy, longtime Toastmaster, but definitely one of those that believes you don't ever color outside the lines. Stay in your swim lane, keep to yourself, don't be creative. Great suggestions are not acceptable here kind of culture. Great. One of the things we talked about a few minutes ago is accepting those people and trying to find ways to expand their box, or to, if you have to, compartmentalize them and go do what you think is right anyway and deal with the consequences of that if they ever appear. A little bit of all of that was my experience last year, but it motivated me to realize I could whine about it or I could do something about it. So I made the decision in December, the day before the paperwork deadline, to run against a sitting program quality director that was relatively popular. Didn't do it for my ego, never wanted to be district director. That was, I could have given you a list of dream things to happen to me on day one of my Toastmasters career, and that wouldn't have been on the top list of 500 for sure. But it was a pivotal moment to where if I wanted to affect change, I had to step up. So for the second time in my Toastmasters career, I ran for a pretty big office. That was an interesting process because the folks that sat on our DLC last year, really fine human beings, love them all dearly, but had a problem with the fact that even though I was qualified on paper, well, you've never been a club growth director and you've never been a program quality director. So I actually was not nominated by our DLC. And I remember calling my mentor saying, well, I guess if I can't convince 7 people to vote for me, how the heck am I going to convince 51% of 3,000 to do so? And he said something pretty profound. He said, your reason for running, has that changed at all? I went, no, I'm just being pragmatic about the statistical possibility of me winning a race under these odds. And he goes, your motivation hasn't changed, run from the floor. So for the second time in my Toastmaster career, I launched a campaign as a floor candidate for a major role. The platform that we used was all about innovating. It's this moment in time where we are coming out of this pandemic, maybe not as quickly as we want, but we're coming back to the way things were socially. So do you want to go back to exactly where we were before we had to press pause for a global pandemic? Or do we want to go to a different place? That, in essence, was the message. That was the platform. And I can't tell you how many people reached out during the campaign and just wanted to talk, just wanted to understand my position on issues, how I felt about what the future state could look like, everything in between. And when we had the business meeting, went through the candidate showcase, I still felt like there was no chance in the world that I could win this election. But my motivation at the time was maybe I'll make him a better candidate and make him a better leader when he does win. And when they announced the vote in the business meeting, I was shocked. I mean, literally, I know they recorded it somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that the look on my face was because it was total disbelief. Two things were going through my mind. One was I'm shocked. It's statistically impossible. I don't know how that happened because this time I actually won by a fairly large margin. And to me, anything greater than 3 was large, but it was 10, 15%. And then at the same time, I was hit with, oh crap, what did I just sign up for? What have I done? But here we are. It is what it is. The results have been announced, and that's when my life as a leader in Toastmasters changed on a dime. It was a very humbling experience. I can't tell you the countless people that reached out after the fact to want to get involved. What role on your team have you not filled? What can I do to be of service? Some of them wanted big roles because they wanted to get another year of service on a DTM. Some of them said, "Put me in, coach. I don't care what you do. Where do you need the help?" And it is very overwhelming to see that kind of love come from every aspect of our district, because for the first time, I saw people get excited about something and I didn't truly understand what it was or why, but it was the excitement of hope and the prospect of something new that most of them shared with me was the reason that they aligned and decided to get engaged. And that gave me hope. We were talking in the pre-meeting with Joe, what are we trying to solve here? We're trying to solve preventing the same 9 people from doing everything every year all the time. Because at some point, those 9 people are going to get burned out and then run away or drink heavily or whatever we do to check out in the world. But it was a spark that we needed in this particular district to broaden the conversation and to start asking the questions of why do we serve? Why do we do the things that we do? One of the things I challenged the new leadership team when we got together, even before we officially started, was as you're going through your people and your processes, ask the question, why do we do it that way? If the answer is because that's the way it's always been done, that should go on your short list of things to take a look at and see if that really is the way we should be doing it. And what it's done is it's totally transformed most aspects of what we do as a district now. My experience as a leader last year was trios sending what I call spam email messages every other day. And each of your trios have different strengths and different weaknesses. And some are really good at crafting words and succinct messages. And some will ramble on endlessly, page after page, with no call to action or even clear purpose of what the message is supposed to be for. And so we did simple things like move our website to a faster server so that when you clicked on the link, it actually brought you the page instead of you having to click on the link and go get a cup of coffee and come back in 20 minutes and hope the page loads. Those were easy things to do. We decided to consolidate communication into a monthly newsletter instead of all these spam emails coming randomly at our members. Now, the newsletter is great. And in fact, Lauren, who is here, is one of the key contributors that has made that not only a fantastic publication, but has helped us sort of rebrand what we're about and why we're here. I think one of the mistakes we make as leaders from time to time is we forget we're not here for us. We're here to do everything in our power to improve the member experience, whatever it takes. And that's what I've been able to try to get most of our team to focus on this year. We're not going to hit home runs every time. Not everything's going to work. And we've made it okay to fail. Try something. If it doesn't work, don't do it. or tweak it and try it again. If it does work, do more of it. And it's just, none of it is rocket science, but it's a way of shifting the culture to get people to open up their mind and look at the possibilities versus the restrictions of maybe what their prior experiences have been. So what I'll wrap up and leave you with, and then we can open it for Q&A, is we all got here for the reasons we got here. Some of us came for personal reasons, got what we wanted and left. Some of us came for the reasons we came and then found other reasons to continue to contribute. As leaders trying to foster the next generation of leaders, we have to find those people. We have to hug them tight and still maintain a 6-foot distance. I'm not sure how we pull that off, but we'll figure it out. And just enable them to shine in ways that motivates them to be the next set of leaders to take us even farther than we could have ever imagined. Thank you.
All right. We have a small group, so why don't you just unmute yourself to ask a question? And we're going to start with Lauren because she has her hand raised.
Or she's clapping. I get confused with these. New
Yeah, that could have been. So,
yeah, I was clapping.
Oh, okay. That was nice.
So it's Chuck, it's a small, intimate group. So
Yeah.
What do you want to ask me on or off the record? We're friends here. You're
Who
my
has a
birth
question?
family. You're my birth family. So we can talk about anything here because it's safe. What do you want to know?
I want to mention that, you talked up front about how you got involved. And I got involved because a friend, a lady that my wife worked with, called and said, hey, there's a new thing called a Toastmaster Club starting in Turlock. They've got 19 people registered. They need 20 to be official. Could you join? That was about 10, 11 years ago. We had a meeting this morning. Been there for most of the meetings for the last 10 years. I'm not going to try to do all 11 paths. 6 is more than enough. Got other things to do. But I think, maybe talk a little bit if there are no questions, interrupt if there are. If not, talk a little bit about what you did to complete that many paths.
Chuck, it's really simple. And I said it at the beginning of the meeting, don't speak for free, ever, period. I've been lucky enough for the last 7 or 8 years of my professional career, and even though I've only been a Toastmaster coming up on 5 years, to work for a company that had a Toastmasters club, a corporate club. So in addition to the clubs I join for fun, I normally join my corporate clubs for support, and because it helps me in my day job in ways I couldn't even fathom. What happens when you lead people in your day job and they see that you're a Toastmasters geek and they don't even know what that is, the odds of them signing up and joining are pretty high for 2 reasons. Some of them really want to see what you're so excited about, so they're there for the right merit. And some, how do I want to put this, are just blatantly sucking up and want to spend more time in favorable light with their boss. So what I would do is I would grab one of those on my team that was a Toastmaster and bring them to all sorts of meetings and presentations along with an evaluation form. So I got literally credit for just almost everything I possibly could. Yes, Kim, I voluntold many people on my team. Guess what you're doing Wednesday at 2 o'clock or Thursday at 6:30 or whatever. And it usually involved me buying them lunch. And so they didn't, there was something in it for them. But they also got to see parts of our business that they normally wouldn't have been exposed to. And so my hidden agenda there was to not only get them motivated about Toastmasters, but also get them motivated or jump started or kick a seat in the pants for their professional careers. And as they could connect their own dots in their day jobs and see how I did mine, it inspired a couple of them to actually move into leadership roles professionally. So Chuck, I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just got credit for every single freaking thing I did, period, to excess.
I totally understand. I've done a number of speeches, and what's interesting in the professional speaking is if you network with the people and just say, any of you Toastmasters? And one of them says, yeah, you hand them a form and say, would you evaluate me today? Thank you. Give it to me when we're done.
And no one will ever say no, will they?
No, never had
Absolutely
anybody say
honored to
no.
do that. In fact, Joe will tell you, I emailed him yesterday an evaluation form for tonight's session. So I will not be speaking for free again tonight. So thank you, Joe, in advance for filling that form out for me.
We're all advanced right here. I know a big question comes up about, all right, I'm a Toastmaster. I love it. Okay, I get into leadership. How does that increase my networking skills? I told you from my own personal experience, I met a lot of people I never would have outside of leadership. You know how many authors we have? You know how many doctors we have, how many professionals we have in Toastmasters, but they usually step into leadership also. And they're inviting you to do things for them. They're inviting you to be part of their projects, their HPLs.
Yep.
And it's kind of, you help me, I help you kind of deal. And a lot of the guys want to know a little bit more about our networking. So I'll talk about that, DaWane.
So as far as networking is concerned, you're absolutely right. You meet a lot of people from now, especially on Zoom land, from around the world. And the geographic boundaries and restrictions and proximity issues don't exist anymore. It's now about, are you too lazy to get up and get on a Zoom call? Or, you know, you don't have to wear pants, Chuck. So I'm glad you did tonight, but yes, that's one of the perks. I will tell you, it also helps.
Are you
with,
sure?
I'm going to lean that way because I don't have pants on now, but you don't need to know that. I'll tell you, it also helps networking in your career, especially if your company that you work with has a Toastmasters club. So I'll tell you one thing that happened to me. I was still in Vegas, so I hadn't moved to Texas yet, and my VP and I were pretty close. He knew that, knew of my Toastmasters habit, he liked to call it. And, all he cared about is if it doesn't get in the way of your day job, go speak wherever, whatever, good luck, Godspeed. And I didn't even know at the time McAfee had a club in Plano. And when I was there for some business meetings, I actually was there a day of a club meeting, and I walked in, said, hey, I'm a guest. Can I join you today? And they're like, yeah. And so I got to meet a new set of people that I didn't have a relationship with. And within 6 months, because we can see all this out on the dashboard, I noticed that club had lost all of its members. And I called the president of the club that I met that day and said, what happened? And he goes, well, the same 5 or 6 of us just got tired of hearing each other's stories, so we just decided not to renew. So I just happened to tell my VP that, and he goes, well, okay, go bring that club back. And I'm going to assign the resurrection of McAfee Toastmasters as a leadership development project for you and your career. I'm like, okay, I live in Vegas, right? And they're in Plano, Texas. He goes, I don't care. You've got all kinds of reasons to be down there. Just figure it out. And that was as much direction as I got. So from a networking perspective, what it forced me to do was end up in Plano talking to every executive in that building that led some kind of team of some type. And the sales pitch was really easy. So Clarice, there's got to be someone on your team that every time they're about to present, you just get chills and you almost want to vomit a little bit in your throat because you just know it's going to be a bad experience. And 100% of them said, oh my God, yes, how can you help? Which opened the door to have a broader Toastmasters conversation. So from the point that project was handed to me, which was November of 2018, we relaunched in January of 2019 with 21 members. And I know they're struggling right now because they laid off a bunch of people, but on the current dashboard report, I think you'll see that they have 52 members of record. So we built it into a really healthy club. In fact, 2 of the people on here are from D50 and we're part of that club when we all work there at the same time. And it was just something special. The day that that June or that July 1st, when I was able to turn the keys over to a new officer team and they actually got to run the club and take it to the next level, was a proud moment, because that to me was the success metric. It wasn't that we brought it back to life and an X number of people generated X amount of revenue for TI. It was the fact that now there was a new leadership team that couldn't lean on DaWane to do everything and stepped up and did an incredible job and took it to the next level and inspired others to join. And if you look at it from what can it do for you personally and what can it do for those around you, that's a byproduct of leadership in itself. So yeah, it works both directions, Joe. What else you got?
I see Jackie's hand raised.
Yeah, networking, I found the concept of networking in some of our members has been very interesting. I've been in 2 clubs where I've actually had members leave because you don't network in Toastmasters. And in both cases, I was dumbfounded by it because everything we do is networking. If you get out of your club and visit another club, if you go to a conference, if you go to a contest, if you just walk down the hall with a banner in your hand going, come to the next meeting, you're networking.
Yep.
The people who left our clubs because networking doesn't work, and I think Chuck is thinking of one of those people because he was in a club we both belong to. Their idea of networking was, I show up and you buy something from me. I'm an insurance salesman.
Yes. Yes.
I'm networking here. You buy all your insurance from me, and I don't even have to say, what kind do you want? Just my name is, and I sell insurance. So there's networking and there's networking. And what is it you want to get out of the networking? What is it in it for you? If what's in it for you is a bigger paycheck without opening your mouth, possibly Toastmasters is not the place for you to go. But then neither is the Kiwanis or anybody else that networks. So be careful when you ask the question, how do we network, and what's in it? Where are you coming from your networking?
Yep. Can't disagree with anything you just said. Chuck, is your hand up or are you just waiting?
Yes. I have the relationship between leaders and networking. When we have the situation where maybe you're sitting with a group of Toastmasters, not officers or anything, just a group of Toastmasters, maybe on a video, waiting for something to start on a Zoom, and you say, anybody have any questions? Dead silence. When there's dead silence in a group, there's no networking going on. Leaders, just by the fact they got somewhere, they've taken a leadership position, tend to be more outspoken. So they will speak up, they will start the chatter among themselves. And that's where the networking comes in. And, you know, if you're all part of a company club, there may be some value in networking to company business. If you are a very diverse club, and we have a lot of those now because of the Zoom meetings with people from all over the world, and I just had somebody from Australia in one of my training programs for the NSA. The networking is great. When you say any questions, boom, everything starts. We have Zoom calls set up just for networking. We invite everybody from a certain group to come in and just network. And by God, if people are silent, I just want to reach across the screen and slap them. Networking means telling them who you are, what you do, why you do it, and asking them, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it? I'm done.
I'll tell you, Chuck, I'm glad that you didn't invent the slap feature in Zoom, because that would be a scary proposition for me. So
I've
Karen,
asked for it.
I know you have. They're working on it. Next release. Karen.
So I have a lot of comments about this whole networking concept. Jackie hit some of them. A lot of people who come into any group don't necessarily know how to network. And I always like to tell people like that, where are they? How come they're not on this call? But anyway, I like to tell people that good networking starts with asking questions about the other people and getting to know them and getting them to talk. So I did an experiment on yesterday during our Toastmasters group. This is a new group that I just joined that was Zoom only and has now gone to hybrid mode, meaning that there are some people on Zoom and some people in the room. I decided to take one of my speeches, and I'm only on speech fourth speech, but I'm a prior CTM from the dark ages. So I've done a lot of speeches, and I was a president and all these things of a group in the dark ages. And so I did an experiment. It was the research and presentation project of one of my pathways. And I decided to come out of the closet and sort of make it into my business opening. So I took all these statistics about my industry, which I like to call the gig economy. And then I weaved it so that it brought it back to my experiences. And I can tell you that from that 10-person meeting, I got 2 people to ask me about what I'm doing in the gig economy. So there are ways for people to network in Toastmasters.
Yep.
I was hoping that this call would give me other ideas besides just taking the stage for 5 to 7 minutes and bragging about myself. No, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. But yeah, I just thought, okay, so maybe there's something that, sorry, Chuck, but unrelated to being in a leadership position and just being a regular Toastmaster for once in my life, and have some, maybe I thought somebody would have some other ideas that would give me ideas on how to do that.
So I
Thanks
think
for the time.
Sure, absolutely. I think the idea that was shared earlier that said get out of your club and go to as many different club settings as you can is one where you get to take action. You know, it was a lot harder when you had to drive somewhere. It's a lot easier now that you can hop on Zoom. But you know, think about in your club, if you stick around long enough, as you've experienced, I'm sure back in the dark ages as well, you really you become a family because you've told each other your stories and you understand that many of us will share all kinds of vulnerabilities and be totally transparent because that's what we want in this safe space that we have. So you get to know your club members really well. But if you go to a new club, it's one of the biggest aspects of everything that we do that can not only be very effective in networking, but also teach you something about best practices that you might bring back to your club. You may get an idea of, after you visited your 5th or 6th or 18th club, you know what, there's a need for something specific that may be in alignment with your industry or alignment with your career goals, where you can either bring that to your club and mold that into your club's agenda, or you'll find a club that has that vibe and has that characteristic. You know, one of my clubs in Vegas met in a bar, and I thought, okay, that's an interesting place to have a meeting. And over time, you realize that after a couple, you know, people get real friendly and they tell you stuff they probably shouldn't and probably would buy an insurance policy from you if that's what your purpose was. And it wasn't because they showed up to blatantly sell their products. They showed up to blatantly connect with other people. So I think you can build that into your journey if you take a little effort and, you know, step outside your club as often as you can and be parts of conversations like this. You know, you may not get an hour's worth of gold, but you might get one little nugget from something that someone said that will change your entire outlook of what you do next. Jose, I think you've raised your hand or you're waving.
Hello, this is
Hi.
Jose Partida. I'm from the president of Madera Toastmasters Club in Simi Valley.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be in this class for networking. So I got into Toastmasters. There's some authors that mentioned the word Toastmasters, and also there's some YouTubers, and they used to be Toastmasters. But it's interesting that one of the last YouTubers who was in Toastmasters said that somebody had asked him about his past in Toastmasters, and then he said, I don't know if he knew, but Toastmasters is the spot to go for networking. And that individual, he has his own business, personal training and consulting. So that was one of the, I mean, now this year I'm learning more about the networking aspect of Toastmasters.
No, that's a very, very great comment. I think what Jackie said earlier is an interesting leadership opportunity for all of us. There are people that will join our clubs with a blatant agenda to want to increase revenue and whatever it is that they're selling. And the minute that you notice that, the minute that you see that in all the small talk before the meeting or after the meeting, it's our job to lead them either to a different reason of being there, or ultimately, if they're not successful, they're going to leave on their own. So it's almost self-correcting. I'll tell you that I've never bought from someone who's come into a meeting with a blatant agenda to sell me something, but I have purchased many things from fellow Toastmasters because we became friends. I got to know them. I moved 10 years worth of insurance relationship to a Toastmaster because frankly, my rates got too high and I trusted this guy. And I said, you know, here, see what you can do with it. He never once asked me. I approached him. So it can be and has been an effective networking tool as long as it's embraced from the right perspective and the right motivation.
Good point.
I
Thank you.
absolutely agree. Myself, I joined Toastmasters because I had a product I wanted to sell. I had a service I wanted to share with people. And I was at one of those coffee shop business meetings where we're all pitching our product to each other. And the guy next to me, we had to give a 30-second elevator pitch, and I was horrible. 30 seconds. Today you can't sum me up, but there's no way. It's totally impossible. But the exciting point was after a couple months, let's be realistically, I kind of started to get it. And I stopped talking about me and my business and all this other stuff. But I think, like you said, DaWane, later on, people come to you. So what do you do again?
Yep.
Why are you doing that? You keep talking about vacations. I want to know more, whatever it is. People will come to you if you're genuine, if you're really putting out what you're learning and not pushing people. Sure, we have the talks before, the talks after, and we invite people to private things going on later on. But darn, when we're in the meeting, let's be professional. People come to us all the time. I get, someone invited me to be on the radio show, their podcast. I have my own podcast network today because another Toastmaster invited me to be a guest on his show. This stuff happens, but we have to be open to listen in everyday life. And you're right. If you think you'll pitch your product to everybody, expect them to buy, and 2 weeks later they don't, you're out. Sorry for you. Come back when you're ready because Toastmasters offers a lot more than those little small commissions. We appreciate what you're sharing with everyone, DaWane. Any other questions for DaWane?
So I do have a question. And it has to do with this relationship between the Rotary and Toastmasters. Could you perhaps speak a little bit about that relationship and how we could approach the Rotary clubs to offer speeches to them?
Fantastic question. So when they did the big press release and we all saw it and we went, wow, this is going to be big. And then crickets chirped endlessly for months on end with no direction coming down from the high castle. So we all got together in a couple of our local clubs and said, well, let's don't wait on TI. Let's go network. So we reached out to some of the leaders of a couple of Rotary chapters here in town and said, hey, are you guys hearing anything from your end? They're like, nope, we aren't either. So what are we going to do about it? Well, why don't we come visit your club and you come visit our meeting and let's get to know each other. In fact, we happen to have an opening at the end of the month. Would you guys like to come in and, I think the topic that month was humor, and do a humorous speech and do an evaluation and give people a taste of Toastmasters. That wasn't all that happened. And they gained members from us. We gained members from them. And these were net new to both organizations, simply because we just said, you know what, we're not going to wait for someone else to figure it out. Let's just go see what it means to us. And again, it's up to us to take the action. Maybe someday some program will come down where it'll have a lot more meaning and depth. In the meantime, go make it yours.
Okay, so there's no formal procedure or anything.
It's
So
just networking.
This is happening and that's it. Okay.
Yep. So
Because I
we
was
took,
asking leaders in my club about it and nobody knew a thing. And then I said, well, and one guy stood up and said, okay, I'll go and find out. But then I never got anything back from the guy. So,
yeah.
okay.
So own it, Karen. Own it.
I will.
You own it and go make it happen.
I will.
Okay, share with the rest of us. So
There
we,
you go. Please
Well,
do.
The thing is, I have a couple of businesses, and one of them's the gig economy one that I was telling you that I did the speech on yesterday. But my main business is that I'm a professional organizer. So fortunately for me, I have a topic, or I have topics that are of huge interest to people all over the place, meaning that for a Rotary club, because they're business people, they want to know how to stay organized in their business or whatever. And then in personal life too. So I've had a couple of opportunities outside of Toastmasters where I spoke at different Rotary clubs, but having this marriage or courtship or whatever you want to call it is a huge benefit to every single Toastmasters member and the organization as a whole, I think, like you just said, DaWane.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been doing some great things. It just so happened the Rotary director for our district lived about 2 miles from me when I was district director. And we've had coffee, we've done things. They wanted to know a little bit how we can help them in leadership. And I think DaWane said it's really all about network and having coffee. What do you need from me? How can I help you? And you get more done when we're willing to serve and give back first. When we visit those other clubs, that's where I get guest speakers all day, every day. Just visiting a club and says, Karen, I loved your speech. Will you come be a guest speaker of mine? It's literally that easy. They're not all going to join, and don't expect them to. But if you have a guest speaker and invite other guests, hey, we got Karen Simon coming to speak to us, and just invite the world. And you know what that does to your club and your credibility? It's not that hard to build clubs. And it's talking to people, it's inviting people, it's networking. Now, I know it's already after 8 o'clock, and we try to keep this to 1 hour. And DaWane, we deeply appreciate you. How can people find you if they want to find you?
Oh, I'm easy.
District 50 district director.
I am easy to find. I don't hide on the interweb. I'll put my email in chat if anyone has any follow-up questions or wants to talk about anything else that's going on.
Please. So if you want to reach out to him, and you know how to get a hold of me and the trio, but you want to get hold of DaWane, his email is in the chat box. This recording is going to go up on our website, hopefully by the end of the week. And I appreciate all your support throughout the last several months. Now, next month, we're going to start asking people, say, hey, we're looking for area directors and division directors for next year. who's ready for the challenge, and we're going to help you get there. That's what this is all about, getting all of us confident in the stepping up. Look at us, we're networking right now. We have a support system right here, right now. Next month, the 5th of the month at 7, we'll have a different topic, a different format, and give us some ideas of what you want to hear. But we're trying to help everyone, encourage everyone to say, hey, let's be area directors this year. And most of us will agree that was the best time of our Toastmaster journey so far. The trio is great, but boy, if we didn't get our thing together in the area director realm, who knew what would have happened? And realize we don't have to do all the work ourselves. We do have people to support and training. But with that being said, any last minute comments, DaWane, before we let everybody go to sleep?
Just thanks for the invite, Joe. Really appreciate it. This was fun. Good seeing many of you I haven't seen in a long time.
Thanks, DaWane. We deeply appreciate what you're doing for Toastmasters and International. And trust me, between you, Chuck, and so many of us, and Antigua's in the house, and some
That's
other
right.
districts, deeply appreciate that. We're rocking it. We're doing something extremely important. And networking is make sure you reach out to someone next month and invite them. That's what network is about. You want to grow your club, you want to grow the district, you want to grow the leadership. That's what we're supposed to do, network and invite. All right, with that being said, October 5th, 2021, one more out of Toastmasters, meeting, webinar, training, presentation, adjourned. You guys all have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Hi,
Good night,
everybody.
folks.
Good night. Good seeing you again, DaWane.
Take care.
Thanks,
Good
DaWane.
night. Thank you, DaWane. Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank you,
Right.
Dwayne.